Hi, my name is Barnaby Kay, and you are listening to The Sirens of Audio.
You're a classic example of the inverse ratio between the size of the mouth and the size of the brain.
G'day audiophiles, this is The Sirens of Audio, the show that explores the universe of Doctor Who and the audio medium. I'm Dwayne.
And I'm Philip. G'day Dwayne, g'day audiophiles.
G'day Philip, how's things?
Things are good. Weather's coming, improving, spring's coming out in Australia. Life's good.
Daylight savings has nearly started.
Yeah, when does that start? End of September?
We're recording sort of almost halfway through September, first weekend in October, isn't it?
I don't know, but I'm looking
when
forward
our clocks
to it.
change. Yeah, it's going to be great. It's
Good
going to be
time.
great. Now, we have an excellent podcast and vidcast lined up for you today. So don't forget, if you're listening to us, you can watch us as well on YouTube, Spotify. So don't forget that, where you can like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff, all that kind of jazz. We're going to be speaking with the incredible Clare Corbett. She is audiobook royalty and has been doing it for many, many years and has recently done a audiobook reading of The Fires of Pompeii by James Moran. And in Big Finish, she also starred most recently in Jekyll and Hyde. So it was great to have the opportunity to have a little chat with her, Philip.
It was indeed. She's a lot of fun.
And we'll share that with you in just a second. But before we do, guess what?
What, Dwayne?
Too late, we're falling in. It's a rabbit hole. Here we go. Okay, Philip, so for this rabbit hole topic, since we're talking about different formats of Doctor Who, we're talking about an audio book reading, I just want to get your thoughts on the audiobook range. Do you often go back to stories just to get a different taste of particularly the classic era? That's where I tend to go, just to get a different take on those television stories. How do you enjoy them? What do you get out of them?
Yeah, it's a great question. The Target book range was very special to me as a kid. And so, I bought everything that came out, and I became very well known to the manager at the Angus and Robertson shop nearby, and ended up working at the bookshop for a while, doing all their stock takes, because I just had to keep buying my supply of Doctor Who books, and they were quite cheap back then. So Target books have always been important to me. So once they started coming out on audio, I started getting them. So I've got most of actually I've got all of them that have come out so far. So I always get them, I download them now and try and listen to them well. I love them. It's interesting because I was always particularly keen to have the original Doctors and companions do the readings. But a few have come out now but with other people, and they're spectacular as well. So, if they choose well, The Fires of Pompeii by with Clare Corbett reading it, it's the most amazing reading. And Koshaw has done a few now, and his ones are spectacular. And Louise Jameson started doing them because for some strange reason she didn't do any of hers. And it's only been in the last year or two she started doing them, and all her readings are really great as well. So I love the audiobooks, and getting more now. Something else to collect. What about you, Dwayne?
Well, keep in mind the Keys of Marinus has just been released as well, and Jamie Glover does the reading for that one.
That's right.
Who plays Ian in the new Doctor, the new first Doctor Adventures.
The mockumentary.
Yeah. I don't even know what to call it. The 50th anniversary documentary based on William Hartnell.
It's almost 10 years ago now. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. And also they released full cast audios for Big Finish as well with that TARDIS team.
Yes.
So I haven't heard it yet, but at the time of recording, but I have got a copy and I will be listening to it very shortly. So That will be interesting. But yeah, I think I was never into the audiobook releases, but yes, the Target books have a very special place in my heart. I think the Target book that really got me and I could see how much potential the audiobook versions have was The Five Doctors. When I listened to that, John Coleshaw was reading that.
Yep.
And that's only a few years old, isn't it? So,
Yep.
I haven't been listening to them from the beginning like you have. But The Five Doctors was absolutely incredible. And this is before John Coleshaw was doing some of his characterizations on Big Finish. At the moment, he's doing the Delgado and Ainley Masters, the Brigadier. He's doing Chameleon, and various other roles. I mean, he does, other roles that aren't impersonations as well. So it's great that John Coleshaw is fully on board with Big Finish now, and it was The Five Doctors that just blew me away with the way he could bring that book to life. Was so wonderful. And I guess with someone like John Coleshaw, having spoken to him, we know that he loves how much he loves the show, and that love translates into everything he does. So that's good. But we're speaking with Clare Corbett soon, and she loves what she does as well, although she's not a Doctor Who fan. But the love of what she does and the care to detail of what she did in Fires of Pompeii was absolutely incredible. The character work, and I think you're going to be amazed that the preparation that she does may not be exactly what you expect from the TV episode. Just keep an ear out for that. I won't spoil it too much. But yeah, other books too that I've got on audio, like Doctor Who and the Silurians. Not the Silurians, Doctor Who and the Cave Monsters, thank you very much.
Jeez.
Let's call it by its correct title. I love that book. Malcolm Hulke is, I don't know, is he my favourite Target book author? Probably is, because he was the one that really expanded the books and gave the characters all that history. Then you had authors like Ian Marter come along and do that too. Terrance Dicks was great, but he never expanded a great deal like a lot of the other authors.
His first few were really, really good, and his last few were really, really good. I did think in the middle it was sort of just a reproduction of the TV show.
Yeah, he was sort of doing it. It was like a factory production almost. He was pumping them out, but still, great to get your thoughts on that, Philip.
Yeah, no, I always happy to talk to audio and always happy to talk Target. So
excellent. All right, let's jump out of that rabbit hole and we'll throw in a trailer for Ravagers, which Clare Corbett starred in. And we'll be back with her in just a moment.
From Big Finish Productions, Doctor Who, The Ninth Doctor Adventures, Volume 1, Ravagers.
I'm back! I'm really back in the TARDIS. You did it, old girl.
Endless possibilities and events. Future, past, and everything in between.
I have done the thing! Temporal thing radiating from the TARDIS like nobody's business.
Doctor, I honestly don't know how this could have happened.
Come on, get in.
Oh my God!
It's all right. It's all right. Don't panic. I'm not panicking. I wasn't talking to you. Centurion!
Did you just fall out of the sky or something?
So, yeah.
So you lied to her?
I meant what I said.
Doctor! If you can hear me, you better get here soon!
Run for it, lads! Run! But if you stay here, waving your swords and spears around, you'll be blown off the face of the earth. That macho enough for you?
He's really done it now.
Nova! Hang on to something! Sir! Stop this!
I couldn't agree more, Doctor.
Audrey, no! Put that gun!
How can this be inside your police box?
Perfectly reasonable question. Target! We're being overrun! We've got to withdraw! That sounded a bit polite for a giant mechanical monster.
Got no idea, sir.
Who the hell are these people?
Just quiet, please, all of you!
Sort of terrifying.
Pretty much sums it up.
What if they grab you and try to wipe your brain?
They can try. Whoa. Right. Shall we get on with this? That's not just amazing, it's fantastic!
Big Finish. We love stories.
So we're very privileged to have with us today Clare Corbett. Clare, thank you for joining us.
Hey, you are welcome. Nice to be here.
So tell us, what part of the world are you joining us from?
So I'm in London, UK, and it is currently not raining. We've had a few little blustery storms coming through, but yeah, I think hopefully the sun's shining again.
You had a hot, lovely summer though, haven't you?
We've had a beautiful summer, although it always has got that tinge of sort of feeling a little bit scary because of the world right now. But yes, we have enjoyed a hot summer. And I've actually been holidaying in the UK for the first time in a long time. So yeah, I've been up to Scarborough, which is on the northeast coast, which is one of those places you wouldn't normally go, and it would be hot, but it was hot. So yeah, we got to swim in the sea. Ooh, it's cold. And then down to Devon, which was gorgeous. So yeah, it's been nice to be here.
Now, we've been looking through your Wikipedia page, and I've been onto Audible and had a look at your list. It looks like you've done something between 400 and 500 book readings. Does that sound right?
Yeah, it does. I started a long time ago. I started before everyone else started doing it, I think, when it was back in the day when there was a few studios. I was working in a studio in Bath called Audio Go, and they did I did loads of kids' audiobooks to start off with. And I was working sort of doing one or two a month. And now, obviously, because of Audible, it's brought it into the world of everyone, and it's just taken off. I mean, a lot of the audio stuff at the moment is the computer game world. When I first started doing that was like 2 or 3 lines for a character, and now the dialogue has expanded. So the whole audio world with podcasts and everything has been amazing for me because I've been doing it forever, and it's been it was very under the radar when I started, and now it's this big thing. So it's really funny because I did a book called The Girl on the Train, which you may have heard of. It was made into a film, and I narrated that and for Audible, and I was just going in to do a normal job, and I read the book, prepped the book, went in, recorded it, and it was then on the side of buses because Audible was then starting to advertise a lot more, and suddenly it became massive, and people going, "Oh my goodness, I know who you are because of this thing," and I found it very strange because I've just been doing this job. It was like a job, part of my doing theatre, doing a bit of voiceover, bit of TV, and suddenly I was being sort of recognised for what I had done Audible wise, and it's lovely. But you do sort of think, "Oh, I've been doing this for 20 years." Gosh, there's a lot of. That's why there's 400 because I started when I left drama school. Started doing audiobooks.
Now, you've got a fairly long and varied career in all sorts of. You've done TV, theatre, film, audiobooks. Yeah. When did you decide to become an actress?
Well, I didn't think you could be an actor. I'm from Bristol originally, so my accent should be a bit like that. But and it used to be like that. When I left drama school, it was still like that. I went to a youth theatre, and I was from quite a average, nice family in Bristol. Lived in a small community and went to a little bit of a drama class, but didn't think anything of it. Had a really good drama teacher at secondary school, and then at sixth form, there was a drama teacher who was also really good. And I suddenly started realising you could probably. People were doing this as a job. I hadn't really thought about it. My parents were very supportive, but I just hadn't really thought about it. But I was obviously all right at it. I was getting some good parts at school. So I kind of just followed that up, and I wanted to get a degree. So I looked at drama schools. So I didn't, and I couldn't afford to go to a normal drama school like RADA or any of those big ones. So I went to Welsh College of Music and Drama, which was accredited at that point, and you could get a degree. So it was like a drama course, but you got a degree with it. So I thought, well, that's sort of good because if I'm not an actor, I've got a degree, so at least I've got something. So I did that, and actually Welsh College was one of the best drama schools I could have gone to because it was we had a brilliant year actually. Eve Miles, who was in a lot of the spin-off Welsh Girl, she was in my year. Lindsay Marshall, we had a really good year. Who a lot of people are still working and still doing great stuff. So it turned out to be one of the best decisions I'd ever made. And it also wasn't in London, so there's no pressure. And I did something called Carlton Hobbs, which was an award for the BBC, and I won that in my last year. So I got 6 months on the BBC Radio Rep, which basically led me to work. My first job was with Stephen Fry on a live radio stage. So this audio world, which I never, you never as an actor think, oh, the one thing I really want to be as an actor is on the radio, because it's not it used to be very revered back in the day, but the drama schools, they wanted you to be in film immediately. So starting this career for BBC Radio 4 was amazing, because it taught me how to be an actor without having to worry about what I looked like. I could just act with my voice or just act. Wasn't concerned whether I had, it was you still put your body into it when you're doing audio work anyway. So yes, I did some live radio comedy, and from there that just worked alongside everything else. I was doing theatre. I could go off and do a little voiceover. It was just, and radio drama, I think, is like sadly, it's sort of being, it's just changing. It's stopping for BBC. There's not as many producers for BBC. Sorry, I'm just talking. Many producers for BBC, but it's merging into like the BBC Sounds, and there's many more companies doing radio drama. So it's a different thing, I think. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's just that the place that I was taught how to be an actor is slowly, they're not making as much stuff. So I think that's been quite sad for me. But then actually there's been other doors opening, as there always is when something closes.
Now, you seem like you've always been busy in terms of the audio work seems to always be there for you in terms of a backstop, but you have been busy on terms of television roles, theatre roles. Have there been periods where you haven't been able to work?
No, I kind of when I had kids, I took them into studio with me, because most of those studios were supportive of that. I thought, well, I don't know how you stop without, it's hard. We're in a very strange time as females at the moment, I feel like, because you are trying to continue working and be in this equal space with men, which is what it should all be. Everyone should be equal. But at the same time, you're the one taking the time off to have a baby. So I didn't really take the time off. I did take them in. They just came with me, and I have a friend hold them, and I go into the studio, pop back out again. But there's lots more, there's many more places now, lots of theatres that will allow you to bring your baby in while you're rehearsing. I think the only problem with that is that it's hard to focus, as you must know, if you've had kids, to focus when you're also being a parent. There's part of your eye going, oh my God, they're crying over there. or can I just so there's that sort of thing. But that was the only time really I didn't really stop. I stopped to give birth, but I was back. Well, I used to do these funny adverts, the Dolmio adverts, which I don't know if they came over to Australia, but they were these little Italian puppets. So me and Miriam Margolyes and Victor Spinetti, and who else? The other people that anyway, some other people. We played these little Italian puppets for 14 years. Well, I just took the kids in to, in like Babes in Arms, and just did the like voice of the small child while I was holding the baby. And they were like, that's fine, it's great, it's fine. We can just get rid of that noise, whatever that's going on there. So yeah, so I haven't really stopped. I love my job though, and the radio stuff isn't really like you sort of suggested that it's never been it works alongside it. So it is one of those things that people go, oh, you just like, you sort of tag that along, but you're like, no, for me that's been my steady career. And all the other things, theatre, they take up sort of like 2 months of your time or 4 months of your time. Like I did some Shakespeare's in York, 4 months of summer, and then the voiceovers were always there, but they were always the stalwart of what I did. They were always the thing that I felt most comfortable in, really, because that's where I started. Theatre, I love. TV's a weird, TV's a different thing. TV, you're here one day doing one thing, and then you're not on favour because you don't look right. I've got a love-hate relationship with TV, really, because I feel like I've never been able, I don't think anyone can really, unless you're like a famous name, and even then you can get dropped so quickly. With audio, there's been a steady rise and a just joyous time. And with TV, I do a little guest lead here and there, which I love, but that's what it is, and that's part of my career. But I've never gone, I'd love to do a massive TV part, of course, but yeah, it's never been enough of something really for that.
So you mentioned that your first job was with Stephen Fry. What an amazing character voice he has. Although when I think of him, I think of Fry and Laurie, and I love that particular series. And I guess Hugh Laurie was one of those actors who can do all those different voices. Stephen Fry has that voice that's very distinctive all the way through. So both great for audio, but I think you'd probably be more on the side of someone who can, you've got 1,000 different voices, 1,000 different accents. So just picking up on Stephen Fry, what kind of influence was he on your desire to keep going with audio, if any?
Well, I mean, I've just done something with him actually, not in person because he sort of tends to be away, so he records his stuff separately. But I think that was a very important time for me because it was my first job. He won't remember me though from that. I mean, we've met a few times, but I'm sure he's got. I mean, he meets people all the time. But I was doing something called Absolute Power with Stephen Fry and John Bird. So it's this big comedy series for Radio 4. What I think I learned from him, although yes, he has one amazing voice, I think really you just watch someone like that work with such a clarity and sort of confidence in what he does. It's that calmness I think he just has. With when you listen to the Harry Potter stories, he's not actually doing loads in terms of vocal variety, but he tells the story so beautifully well. So when I look at what he does, I just admire it, really. I think it's inspiring that he still does a multitude of things, that he's always been someone who can be within lots of different forms and you believe every single one of them. So whether you're changing your character with just the way you tell a story, or whether you change it by completely immersing yourself in a different accent or character, they're just two different ways of working as an actor, I suppose. But yeah, he's been inspiring in that I just think the way he accepts work, and he's not snobby about doing an advert to get a bit of money for a bit, and he's not, he'll come and do, he'll write, we're doing this thing called the Roaring 1920s for Audible, and we did the Edwardians as well, and I do loads of voices in the background of his book that I don't know if he's helped write it or he's just narrating that, I think. And so he's always there in the background. He's always doing stuff within audio. And it's not to make him famous. I mean, he is famous. He doesn't have to do those jobs. He doesn't need the money, I imagine. So it's just that he loves them and that he's passionate about what he does, which is what I feel about my career. I never took on a job as an actor to become famous. It's one of those things that it generally falls onto someone because of something they've been cast in. And so for me, to have been working and to be able to afford my mortgage and be happy is why I work, and I'm a jobbing actor. And whether tomorrow I got the lead in a massive Netflix series, then it would take on a different turn. But that's the beauty of acting, in that you never really know what's coming up. And I think for me, I'll always feel safe in the audio world because I know that I've worked hard to get there. Whether someone likes my face or not is nothing I can do about that, really. Like if I get cast in something on TV, it will be about, most actors can act, but it's whether you fit. Whereas with audio, it doesn't matter if this fits, because I can do I do kids' voices and I do all sorts of different voices. So I can be a chameleon in that. I can't be a chameleon with what I've been given here. So that's the beauty of it, isn't it, I suppose?
I've been reading Fraser Hines' autobiography, and he talks about the fact that when he was 10, he went up for a part, and the director asked, "How old are you?" He said, "Oh, I'm 10. I said, "Oh, well, the boy we're looking for is 9. He said, "Well, I was 9 a couple of months ago." And he just said all through his life, he walks into a room and they made a decision long before they've seen him act. They can't conceive the fact that you could actually act differently, or, it's all about playing the role. And you seem to say the same thing, that, is it really so hard for directors to just have this look in their head? If you don't match the look, you can't get the part.
Yeah, it's a different medium, isn't it? And it has to be, you're fulfilling something different, I think, with TV. Maybe you're fulfilling an image they want to portray. I don't really know. I mean, I've loved all the TV things I've got, but I generally get cast as nurse, solicitor, teacher. I mean, that's what I look like, and that's what I tend to get. Whereas on radio, I've played, crazy killers and 5-year-old girls, and it's just or Norwegian, all these different odd characters, especially the computer game world, where you send in your voice clip and they listen to it blind, really. I don't think they get told who you are, what you've been in. They can look after probably, but they're listening and they're going, oh, that's brilliant. They've completely got that. So they're not being distracted by what's there. This is that. I think storytelling is beautiful on the radio for that. I listen to a lot of Radio 4 Extra, and there's so many of the old programs you listen in and think, oh God, it's really painted. A lot of the Sherlock Holmes stuff, and I don't know, some of the old classics that you listen to, some of the Doctor Who's as well. Just some of the brilliant writing that actually, of course, Doctor Who on TV is amazing and it's all about that. But also, if you can listen to the stories, you can make up what, some of these creatures that are kind of just these weird creatures, you're making things up in your head, which is, I think, the beauty of both watching TV and also listening to it's why they give you such a broad range of stuff with the Big Finish and all the other companies that make the Doctor Who's.
I think many of the audio Doctor Who stories have been far better than anything on TV by a mile, and for various reasons.
Yeah.
Now the first...
go on, sorry.
I was going to say, that's the first time I actually noticed you, and I've since gone looking, was the audiobook The Fires of Pompeii, which was released a couple of months ago. So one of the new, and just listening to that being read, I was just taken away. I was taken to the space so well in terms of the voices you did, the humor you brought, the way you brought the action to life, and that I actually took took note and went, wow. How long has it taken you to establish so many different voices and that sort of ability to just read a novel with so much entertainment? I mean, it was just so engaging.
Well, you know what? That's brilliantly written, that book. So most of the work's already done for me, number one, I want to say, because the writing on that was just great.
But you did nail the characters. You were talking about these wonderful creatures and monsters in Doctor Who, but what you nailed in that book was the character of the Doctor and Donna, particularly Donna. So I'm curious to know what kind of research you did. Did you get that episode and just study the mannerisms? And
I did actually that one. So because I didn't even know it had been done. So when I got it, I prepped it without knowing. I knew who the actress and actor were, obviously, who were playing them, but I read it through and prepped it first of all so that I could go naturally on instinct of how I would think it would be read, because that's where it needs to come from initially, is from you, because you're going to be reading the whole thing. Then I watched there were some clips on YouTube of some of because I couldn't get hold of the whole episode. I just watched some little bits online of their relationship, David Tennant, and they were just amazing together. Yeah, they're so funny, and the writing's really funny. In the book, obviously, they've got more of the dialogue than they have in the TV, because the TV has to be shortened down, made a bit smaller. So I was really enjoying the fact that there was more to it. So I wasn't copying everything. I was able to create the relationship in my own head as well, because you don't want to give a line for line read, otherwise there's no point even narrating it. So I think it's a great story. And then from that, I suppose the characters who were around the Doctor, I did have a little listen, but obviously I can't recreate all of them. So I just went with instinct on those ones. But yeah, the energy comes from the story and the arc of the story. I'm not thinking about that when I'm reading it. It naturally happens for me. And as in, if a story is brilliantly written, it's not hard to get there. But that particularly was a romping read. Like, it went quickly. I'm quite a quick reader anyway. I've got to slow myself down a lot, as you can hear from me talking. I'm like, when I'm in the studio, I'm like, come on, slow down. So the energy and pace was already there with that one. So I found that the dialogue could bounce off the page really easily. I hope that answers your question.
That's good. No, because we spoke to James Moran, who wrote it just before it was
James,
released.
Yeah.
And of course, we'd listened to you read it. He hadn't heard it yet, because the audio we got early copies of the audios to listen to before it was released. And so we were telling James about how good it was, and he was talking about need to go and listen to it. Just talk about your prep process. So you got to get the novel. Actually, what form do you get it in at first? Is it? I assume you don't get the book. I assume you get.
I get a PDF. I get a PDF of the script, and I upload that to something called iAnnotate, which is like you can write on your computer. I tend to. This is my little book here. I tend to write down all the characters. That isn't all the characters from that book, but so I'll write down. As I go through, I'll note down all the characters, what page they appear on, any accent notes that might come alongside those characters. So if they've got where they're from, or how old they are, any of them.
There's the Cockney salesman in Fires of Pompeii, for instance.
Yes, exactly. So I'll write all those down. Then if there's a particular accent I'm not great at or want to try, then I'll just do that out loud, or I'll, what else do I write down? So all the characters, and then I just kind of start. I mean, you do have to read it very well, because you get to the end of a book and someone then mentions an accent and you think, I didn't do that. You can't change it then. So you have to be thorough with that first read. I used to read it about 4 times through and color code it all. And now I've been doing it for that long. I just write like an R at the beginning if it's, or a D for doctor. And so I know before I start the sentence that I'm going to be that character, and that if there's a witch, she whispered at the end, I'll put whisper at the beginning. So I've got shorthand now for how to annotate it. But it's a long process narrating an audiobook. It's energy. I've got to do it after this for a book that I'm narrating, and it takes a lot of energy. And if you're doing it in your home studio, I've got a little home studio here, you're not talking to anyone. It can be quite hard. I think not all actors enjoy it, and sometimes I don't enjoy it. If it's a book that I particularly it's not jarring with, or it might seem really good when you read it through in your head, but when you start to read it aloud, you think, this is so clunky, I'm just not getting into this, I don't know what it is. And sometimes that's because the author sometimes either hasn't read it aloud, or not all authors should read it aloud, but a lot of the time release date of audiobook is the same day as the release date of the script now of the book. So sometimes authors have said to me, oh yeah, that's really, when you say that out loud, that's really hard to say. And you think, yeah, it is. Not that they should be thinking about that, because they've got enough on their hands writing a book, which I, hands down, amazing. But it is, some books are harder to read aloud than others. But that one was amazing. All the Doctor Who's I've done, actually, the audiobooks, have been brilliant, rip-roaring, like, whoa, is always really good. I've not had one that I've thought, that's not very good. So, yeah.
So what you're saying is you get a PDF of just the book, and you have to do all the marking up yourself. It's not a special audiobook version of the book?
No, it's just the book, yeah.
Just the book.
Yeah.
So you have to do all that work yourself.
Yeah. You sometimes you can ask for character lists, but only some authors would have given those. So the one I'm doing at the moment, I'm working with Philip Franks, an actor called Philip Franks. He's doing the other voices in the books. He's got a couple of chapters. I played this sort of lead character, and then his chapters are my son reflecting back on his mother, and I play the mother. And we have to, so I've emailed him saying, this is how I'm going to do the voice. So when you do your bits, make sure you don't give it this accent. Or so sometimes you're with multi voices of books, and you're relying a bit on the producer then to help out with if someone's done a completely different voice for the same character. But obviously you don't create the same voices when you're doing a book. You can only give a slight flavour if it's accent or something. So yeah, you just give them the book and that's it. And you don't get paid for your prep time. You just go straight in. You're like, bang. You just gotta. So you kind of prep. You get very efficient at prepping, and then you're in and you do your book. You do your job. So yeah.
So you said you do most of your recording in a home studio, or do you go in somewhere?
I've got a home studio. I normally record in town, in different studios in town, but through lockdown I created a home studio because you had to. It was the only way to work. So I did 3 months back on the Radio Rep, actually, at the beginning of lockdown. They phoned and said, can you come and do all the different voices for the radio plays for Radio 4, because we don't know what we're doing. We need to set up some stuff, so we need to rewrite the plays to two-handers, and can you come in and do a couple of plays while we're setting up the rest of the people to create more of a radio rep. So I went and did that with a guy called Carl Prekop, who's also a brilliant narrator and actor. And we did sort of a couple of plays for Radio 4 while everything got up and running. So that's why I got a home studio. But it's very efficient. I mean, it means you can pop in and just do a little advert here or there, or so it's great.
So how many takes do you usually take with a book? I mean, if you're doing it in your home studio or with a director, is there usually someone you're bouncing off in terms of, yes, that's fine, and next page or next chapter?
Oh no, they kind of producers just kind of let you go and do your thing, especially if you've been doing it a long time. They're there to check up on consistency of character and words. So if you mess up any words, they'll go, oh no, you didn't add that word. You can't add words or take them away. You have to follow obviously completely the book. So producers are there to just keep you going. And for me, they are. I mean, I don't know, we have more heavier jobs with certain things. But I now, self-produce. So I self-produce and I'll send off. So I pick myself up if I've made a mistake. I make lots of mistakes. I mean, everyone, when they listen to my audiobooks, go, you didn't make any mistakes. I made so many mistakes, but you don't hear them because we edit them out. So I'm very good consistency and character wise, but if you spoke to any of the lovely engineers that I work with, they'd be like, oh, she messes up every 5 seconds. I mess up, but I quickly can pick up and I can very seamlessly make it seem like the same sentence. I mean, if I was to be honest with you, I mean, I don't get through a whole page without messing up at least once. And then sometimes on one sentence, I might do it 4 times because it's really hard to say. So, I mean, I'm not precious about that. In the end, this is why I, hands down, say thank you to all the editors and proofers and all the people that are picking all the stuff up that I do. They enjoy listening to the story, but they do sometimes have a bit of work to do. So thank you. So you're not made to, it's all the people behind the scenes that make it. Your voice sells the story, and as long as you can hold and retain things. Like with that Doctor Who one, we're talking about Fires of Pompeii, I did do that and self-edit myself. So the editor did get a finished product with just sounds and things he had to take out just occasionally. But if I'm in a studio, all my engineer mates will be like, she sounds good once we put her together.
Well, I'm sure we all do. How many pages do you usually do in a session or in a day?
So they generally say, obviously there's more pages, there's more words in some pages, so I mean, who knows, depending on the book, but you probably get through between 60 to 75 pages a morning. So 140 pages a day, maybe. So you get like a little break in the morning, little break in the afternoon, and your lunch break. But you're in there heavy. I mean, if I'm doing it at home, I take loads of breaks. I think, I've got to do my washing. Oh God, I've got to go and pick up the kids. So so it's quite nice doing it at home because you can stop. So I'm starting today, obviously, after I finish with you, I'm going to go and start recording the second bit of this book I'm doing. So, and I'll do probably 3 hours because next door's kids will come home at some point and I'll just hear them doors banging. And so I've got, if you're recording at home, you've got nature around you. It's not a soundproof studio. It's soundproof enough to keep going. But if next door come home, it's like they've got 3 kids. So, Claire, are you in? So that, so I've got to stop then, and I might do something late tonight. Might do a couple of hours after 9 o'clock tonight when they've gone to bed. So it's nice. It gives you the flexibility working at home. But normally it's like 10 till 6 in town if I'm in town. Yeah.
I want to ask you about accents. Do you need to have an aptitude for accents? Can anyone learn how to do an accent, or is it something that you need a special talent to have?
No, I don't think you need a special talent. Some people will tell. I think you need a special talent to do impressions, because since I did Spitting Image, which I did some kids on the first new lot, trying to do impersonations of people and impressions of people is one of the hardest things. I think you've got to have a real aptitude to do that. It's amazing. I can copy someone's voice. I'm better at that, but they copy mannerisms as well and certain things in the book. So when I say I can copy people, I find it easier to copy kids than I do adults. And I just couldn't. I mean, I've got asked to do a couple of impression shows since then, and I just said I can kind of do it, but not quite. But sorry, so going back to accents, no, anyone can do them. It's a massive, it's massively to do with confidence. You've got to be good at it, obviously, but confidence and working hard, I think, right? So when I was at Welsh College, I couldn't do any accents. And when I first started on the radio rep, my dad told me after one job I had done, I went back to Bristol, I said, hey, Dad, did you enjoy that radio play? And he said, yeah, Claire, it was really good. The only thing is your accent went in and out. I was like, Dad, my first radio play. I was like, what do you mean, Dad? And he went, well, you were sort of doing a London accent. It became a bit more Cockney. And then it was just like, then you just did your voice. And I said, oh, God. And so after that, I sort of thought, right, I'm going to have to work a bit harder at this. And I sat down and I realized that phonetically you can write accents out. So you can actually, there's an amazing website called IDEA, International Dialects of the English Archive. And that place has got recordings of every accent everywhere. And then it has phonetically, you can listen to sort of what the A sound changes to. So I just started working really hard at that. And I had to do a job where I had to pretend to be South African because the client thought we were all going to be we all actually were from South Africa. So I took my husband's mate out for a drink and I had the script and I made him record it all for me. And then I sat all night and said, I'm going to speak in a South African accent. And when I get it wrong, you need to tell me. And he was like, okay. And I said, I need to learn all about your life because they might ask me about where I live. And so I spent a night with this guy and I immersed myself in this accent. And it was the one accent that I just couldn't sit right. South African was really difficult. And then from that day, and I went in and I got the job and I went in and I did that job and I pretended to be South African the whole day. And I completely immersed myself in it. And the guy that had employed me said, that was amazing. But when you started talking about apartheid, I thought I was going to say to you, you need to stop now because you don't know anything about any of this, you know. And because I'd learned all this stuff about South Africa because I thought I've got to know everything because they might ask me. I was from Bloemfontein. And he said, but it was really good. Your accent was amazing. So I then realized you could just do it. You could just learn to do it. But it did take me a bit of time to properly. There's so many accents in the UK. Geordie's the one that I'm still not great at. Bristolian, obviously, I can do really well because I'm from there. But yeah, so I think everyone can learn to do an accent. You can write it phonetically down. You can work hard at it. Or some people are just good at them, all of them. But
so it's about confidence. Do you have the confidence to give us your best Australian?
Oh no, I haven't got anything to read. Right. Hi there. I don't even, I'm sure there's many different Australian accents. I don't want to embarrass myself. But yeah, I can do an Australian, I think. But I probably would go away and work it and come back to you.
Oh, come on, I want to hear it.
Oh, no, I don't want to do it. Oh, no. I'll probably go into New Zealand as well. No, don't embarrass me. I'll send you something I've done.
It's okay. Usually we hear people do Australian accents, we just cringe thinking, I'm sure we don't sound like that. But maybe
we probably do.
We probably do. Now you've won lots and lots of awards for oldies. Yeah, so what's it like winning awards? I'm sure they don't really make you rich and famous, do they?
I mean, what does it mean, really? There's so many awards now, aren't there? I mean, of course, it's lovely to win an award, but the Audi's one, I mean, that was for Girl on the Train, the first one I won, along with there were other people in that production, of course, who were brilliant. And I didn't even know it was going on. I just got told that I won it. And I was like, what is it? And this is big, obviously, award ceremony in America. If I'd known, I'd have bloody gone. But I didn't know anything about that one. But they're everywhere. People win awards from many different places now. So the ones obviously you know about, like BAFTA and Oscars. I mean, those are the ones that you sort of aspire as an actor to kind of win. I mean, the computer game I was in just won a BAFTA for the best compute. Well, we won 5 BAFTAs actually, called It Takes Two, which is a computer game that came out last year. And Elden Ring, which is a big computer game that came out this year. That's, I think, it's not in the running for BAFTA yet, but I think I might well be up for a BAFTA. Who knows? Fingers crossed. But I don't Yeah, I mean, of course it's lovely because of all the work you put into these things. But
Well, when we were speaking with James Moran, the author of Fires of Pompeii, he did say he saw your name on his work, and he said to us that this is audiobook royalty. So it does give you a good name in the business. But I'm getting the impression from you that just as much as he's in awe of you, you're in awe of good writing as well.
Oh my God, I'm in awe of him. I think he's amazing. It only makes your job, you can only do a good job if the work is good. You can kind of, make something a bit better if it's a bit, but if it's good, it's just good. I think when it comes to writing, you just know, and people enjoy it. You can hopefully give it a bit more energy if it's like a flat book, but when it's true talent like James has got, yeah. And they're the sort of like unspoken heroes, really, of the Doctor Who stuff. Like all the writers for Doctor Who, they love their work so much, don't they? And they're so invested in the characters. They know all these people, all these characters inside and out, and that's what makes it so good. The passion behind it, the Doctor Who following, everyone involved in Doctor Who that I've met, has just been absolutely amazing. Tom Baker was incredible to work with. I played his assistant in a radio Doctor Who, and he just is joyous. Like everyone involved in it loves it. There's no one that doesn't, you might not be a fan of Doctor Who, but you can still appreciate how popular it is and how lovely everyone is that's around it.
Yeah, and I was going to say, you won the Carlton Hobbs Radio Award, which you already mentioned at drama school. Now, Big Finish has gone on to try and employ, I think, everyone who's ever won the Carlton Hobbs. We regularly talk to people who've won the Carlton Hobbs, and Big Finish just steal them. So how was it you came to work for Big Finish?
Oh gosh, they've been asking for a while actually, but it was just it just didn't work because they have you in for a couple of days, and I hadn't worked for them actually, do you know what? That isn't true. I'm completely lying. I hadn't worked for them because they hadn't asked me for ages. And then they did ask me, and then I wasn't available. So it was like a period of time when I just couldn't, these fruit flies around me. I couldn't do it. And then finally it sort of coincided that we were both free, and I went in and did one and just loved it. I mean, it's so quick. So for a BBC radio drama, don't do this anymore, but used to do a lovely read through, have a nice cup of tea, but they're just in. You're all around mics, there's loads of you in one room, you're just doing it, and you've got to be on it, and they do like 1 or 2 takes, and it's like a lesson in just getting your act together quickly. And the stuff that comes out is just wonderful when you're in there, because they also let you play, so they're not just, you've got to get it done. You'll give a voice and they'll go, can you make it a bit more like this? And you're like, yeah, let's just play with that. So you're playing with stuff, and then they'll find it and they go, that's the one, let's do it, let's go. So then you're off and you're away. And so it is a joyous occasion working for Big Finish. It's fun. They're great. I mean, some of it's been down the line recently, which is less exciting, but you don't get to see everyone.
Yeah. So the first one I think you did was with Tim Treloar, was that right? And Katie Manning on a third Doctor.
Oh, yes. Gosh, oh my gosh, you're really testing my memory now. Yeah, who did I play in that? Some kind of like soldiery thing? No.
Harriet, woman, radio technician. I've got... Whenever your name comes up, there's usually 15 people behind you, next to you.
Yes. I think that wasn't with Tom Baker, was it?
No, it's with Tim Treloar.
Oh, yes. Oh, my God.
Rufus Hound, Katie Manning.
Yeah, I didn't get to meet them though. I don't think they were in the studio at the same time as us. I can't remember recording that. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
I vaguely remember the title of that one. Gosh, it's so horrible when you can't. You're sort of thinking of all the things I've done.
No, it's fine. I mean, so you came back next to Jenny, the Doctor's daughter.
Yes, I remember doing that one. That was at the Sound House. That was lovely. She was lovely. That's David Tennant's one.
It is George Tennant's, that's right.
She was just delightful. She's really great at her job and so friendly. That was a really lovely one. Yeah, that was great. But I think I played a sort of soldiery character for that one, maybe. Quite stern, quite RP. Yeah, because I play a lot of not just one character, sort of the characters merge. The Ravagers that I did, I played the actual Ravager, and they got me to do a kid's voice for that, a really creepy kid's voice.
It was creepy.
Yeah. So yeah, I remember that one really well because it was it was like a specific. They got me in to do that at the same time as I was recording the Box of Delights. I think that was Big Finish. Box of Delights, where I played. Yeah. So that was playing a young girl for that.
So were you actually working with Christopher Eccleston or just?
Yeah, I've met him a couple of times. Yeah, well, where did I see? I was down the line with him. I was flicking literally on one day between two Big Finish productions. They were doing that and Box of Delights, I think, at the same time. And I popped over, literally did three scenes, and then went back again and spoke to him down the line. And I've met him a couple of times because he works. I think he goes into studio rather than having a home studio, Christopher. So he was in recording something. He does a lot, doesn't he, with them?
Well, he's started to.
Yeah.
So he did do anything, but once again, because of COVID, well, he started. I think he started wanting the work just because he wanted the money, and he actually worked out he enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So having taken years and years of asking him.
Yeah, it's so lovely. There's just to feel so. All the producers are great. Barnaby I work a lot with. And all the producers are fantastic. The company's great. They're really friendly, and they work around you if there's any worries with anything. So yeah, they're great, really good.
The most recent release from Big Finish that you've done is Jekyll and Hyde. So that was all remote recording, was it?
That was remote recording.
And it was a bit of a troubled production too. I don't know if you recall that, but I think Nick had COVID and Benji had COVID and.
Oh yeah, there was a COVID. Yeah, I think one of them was down the line with COVID, but seemed okay, was able to carry on. He sort of said, I've got COVID, but I feel okay at the moment, just a little bit odd. So people were sort of doing that, which is amazing because you can record from home. So if you're feeling all right, which some people did, you could kind of keep going. I think by the end of maybe by the second day, he was seeming a little bit more tired. But I don't know if that was because of our bad accent or whether it was just.
Well, you were playing multiple roles in that too. So
I had so many characters.
All the female roles.
It's every female on the record.
But it's interesting because it's a very male-centric story, and particularly the main character you're playing, Mrs. Poole, is traditionally a male character, which I didn't even notice. I'm a huge Jekyll and Hyde fan of all the different productions over the years, and I didn't even notice until towards the end. Oh, hang on, that's Mrs. Poole, not Mr. Poole. How did you enjoy doing that?
Oh, that was brilliant. Yeah. I mean, I always like a challenge. We're doing scenes next to each other going, can you make it sound different? Like, probably, but they do have the same accent. This is really mean of you. So I was doing lots of different ages and there was obviously that emotional scene with the young girl in it. I mean, what a brilliant story. I mean, all of it. I didn't realise that, I knew Big Finish did other stuff, but they've really branched. There's a bit more branching out, isn't there, of other new things around, which is really lovely. So yeah, Barnaby directed. Did Barnaby direct some of that? Yeah,
I'd say
Lights, or I don't know. Yeah, he does a lot for them. But yeah, it was that was great.
That's Nick Briggs, actually.
Nick Briggs, that one. Okay, sorry, Nick. Yeah. So yeah,
Nick was quiet on that. When he directed it, he did the music, he produced it, and he adapted it. So he had a quiet one with that one.
Yeah. He deserves no credit for that. It's a good job. I thought that Barnaby directed it. So Nick, well done, Nick. No, I mean, all these productions are great for them. But yeah, good that they're doing loads more stuff. That's how it should be, shouldn't it? It should be able to merge into some other things. Yeah, they're lovely. They've always been really supportive.
Now, why do you think there's been the growth in popularity of audio in terms of, even though film and TV still seems big, but there's definitely a growth in audio stories and audio books?
I do think that all the Audible have got a lot. We've got a lot to sort of credit them for when it comes to the sort of rise of audio, especially audiobooks, because it was sort of a library thing, really. I mean, you didn't really get, when would you listen to an audiobook? You get a CD out of the library, maybe, for your kid. Not really even for adults. You wouldn't really think about it. So Audible did a massive favour or you'd have to go onto like specific websites for audiobooks. Unfortunately, I think it's not been great for all publishers because money-wise, it's sort of been diluted a little from what I can gather. That's not really I don't really understand the whole politics of it, but obviously it's helped to increase the popularity, but there's more being made and a lot of it's online. So people get less money, I think, within the publishing world, but I'm not sure how that works. But for how it's risen, it's incredible, and all hats off to Audible for sort of whoever owns whatever, for sort of creating that. I think that then also the podcast world. I mean, how did that explode? That just exploded, didn't it? But I think that was probably down to the fact that we were listening more to audiobooks. That was on the rise. Audible have done more dramas. BBC have gone on to BBC Sounds. There's been that push, and that's actually doing really well now. When that first happened, I thought, what is this BBC Sounds thing? It's not very accessible, but now it's really good, and you get loads of stuff for free that you would never think to listen to. All the radio plays are available on BBC Sounds, which is brilliant because they were just lost into the ether. Or put on BBC Radio 4 Extra. So if I wanted to listen again to something, you'd have to go back and listen again. But now it's all on BBC Sounds, which is great. Loads of audiobooks have been put on there. So Pride and Prejudice, which I did, had 9 million downloads. It's been ridiculous. So the stuff is getting out there, which was never really available, which is fantastic.
So if there's 9 million downloads, is there any feedback?
There's more than that now. This is such a Bristolian girl thing. I'm like, oh my God. But I was so excited because the BBC phoned me and said we had recorded that just before lockdown. And because of lockdown, obviously people were looking for something to listen to. They weren't looking for Clare Corbett. They were looking for Pride and Prejudice. Something a bit, let's listen to this. It's little, soft, gentle. And it's just done brilliantly. They just mentioned it on BBC Radio 2 the other day. Gabby Rothman was like, oh my God. This beautiful piece was made into like these 7-minute clips. Me and this lovely producer just sat there recording it, thinking, this would be nice for like BBC Sounds. And now it was 9 million downloads at the end, it was top download during COVID. So I'm really proud. I didn't ever think that many people would even. I mean, they might have downloaded it and not listened to it. So but.
But do you get residuals for that, or is it just a flat fee now?
No, it's not about the money. No money. No, I get paid something like 200 quid, to pop in and do a little recording. But actually, I did that whilst I was on the BBC Radio Reps. It was on a weekly fee, a weekly fee. So it wasn't even a paid for job, as in it was paid for within a world of working per week, but it wasn't a thing. But no down, nothing now. I mean, it used to be that when you did all those big jobs like all the Sherlock Holmes stuff you did for BBC Radio, you get like a little bit of royalty, tiny, like 1p every time it got sold. But now that it's supposedly within the fee, but the fee's not gone up, so it's not royalty. It's just that they're just paying you a flat fee with no extra money, like everything when it comes to every other job in the world. None of us are getting pay rises, are we? So
where can we listen to Pride and Prejudice, you say?
That's on BBC Sounds. And there's also Orlando. Orlando is on there as well, which I think was really great. It's such an amazing book, Orlando, and that's on there as well. So, I mean, only if you're into Pride, probably lots of people aren't into Pride and Prejudice, but I think I'm proud of that one, let's just say that. And I think anyone that's listened to it has enjoyed it. So, well, maybe that's just my family. We love that there.
Well, people keep listening to it, can't be too bad.
Yeah, I mean, it's not Doctor Who, so if you're really into Doctor Who, probably Pride and Prejudice. Well, no, actually, who knows?
Well, a bit of culture's good for you. So, in terms of Box of Delights, did you actually get to work with Derek Jacobi, or once again, it was all down the line? And
no, I've worked with Derek Jacobi a few times. I worked with him on Radio 4. I didn't work with him on the Box of Delights because he was down the line, and I don't even think I spoke to him, and I don't even know if our characters were together in that. Probably were, but I can't remember. Sometimes you had to just leave spaces for people who weren't able to be there for that point, so they then mixed it in later. But Derek Jacobi's like the sweetest man in the world. He's so lovely. He's exactly what you would like him to be, which is just friendly and lovely. I wish I had seen him recently. Yeah, wonderful man.
Well, listen, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge, and thank you some of the techniques you put into your book reading. Certainly, I'm enjoying them, and I look out for your name now.
Oh, well, thank you. It's a pleasure. I'm glad we got to chat at last.
From Big Finish Productions, Big Finish Classics, Jekyll and Hyde.
Satisfied.
Oh, he's commonplace enough to look at, but on the short side. But when you do look at him, you wish you had never done it. You wish you could forget. But I can never forget. I'll never forget that face. Never forget what he done.
Do not see, sir. They mean to take your life.
You are a liar, sir.
I beg your pardon.
And I did not give it.
By all lights, and at all hours of solitude and concourse, I was to be found. There, waiting. If he be Mr. Hyde, I thought, I shall be Mr. Seek. Like a blind fool, I welcomed it into my heart, my home, and it very nearly destroyed me. Thank the Lord, I am rid of it.
Big Finish, for the love of stories.
The moment I choose, I can be rid of Mr. Hyde.
All right, so that was a trailer for Jekyll and Hyde. If you haven't yet grabbed a copy of that, I can highly recommend it. It was one of my favourite releases over the last couple of months, so absolutely recommend you get that. Have you heard it yet, Philip?
Well, you know what? I was going to recommend that.
Oh, excellent. But actually, is it your turn to make recommendations for this week?
Well, I hope it is, because I want to go first if I can.
Well, it is your turn, so away you go.
Yeah, so I'm going to recommend Jekyll and Hyde. And I'm doing this because I know you're a big fan of Jekyll and Hyde. I'm not. Right. I don't think I've read the book. I don't think I've ever seen a movie version of it. I mean, I kind of knew the story in the background. And I've got the soundtrack.
You listened to my reading of the book, didn't you?
Did I?
I thought you did. It's on the podcast feed anyway.
Yeah, well, okay. I need to go back and listen to it because nothing in this was particularly familiar. Oh. And so I don't know how much it's changed the order of the story or anything. So I will go back and I will definitely go back now and listen to your reading on the podcast. Because it was just amazing because I wasn't particularly familiar with the story, and I had in my head what I thought the story was about. It was a lot different. And right. The production was just wonderful. It was creepy and very uncomfortable and brilliantly acted. And I had a ball. Well, that's the wrong word for this, but in terms of a piece of audio that really sucked me in, to the extent of I went to visit my mother yesterday in Gosford, and I was so caught up in the audio I missed the turnoff.
Oh, right.
And I'm driving along the M1, heading up towards Newcastle, looking around me thinking, I wonder where the turnoff is, and then realising I have no idea where I am. It took me a couple of minutes to try and locate myself, and I had to go off and exit 2 exits away, and add an extra 20 minutes to my trip because I was just that caught up in the story. So if you haven't, get Jekyll and Hyde. It is wonderful. Big Finish does so much more than just Doctor Who, and it is really worth exploring because anything they do is going to be excellent and broaden your understandings, broaden your genres. I can't encourage you more than to dip into all their non-Doctor Who stuff because it will really catch you with great stories.
What I loved about it was the dialogue that came straight from the story. So it's an adaptation, yes, so it's not exactly the same as the story, but the dialogue is used word for word in many, many places, and I love that because I love the story so much, and particularly the Tom Baker version, although my version's pretty good too, Philip. It's not abridged either like the Tom Baker version, so it's the full book is up there. And just Robert Louis Stevenson's language is just beautiful. But what I liked about it was that I'd read these words many, many times before, and the actors were saying these words in ways that I had never before imagined. So it was like a new experience for me. There's a scene with Dr. Lanyon where he's dying from the shock of seeing the transformation of Hyde into Jekyll, and that scene I've never heard that scene performed that way. I've seen a few different versions of the story.
It was harrowing.
Oh, mate. It was
really harrowing.
It made the hair on the back of my neck stand up.
Yeah.
It was incredible. Absolutely incredible and powerful. So that particular performance really stood out to me. But Barnaby Kay is in you think Jekyll and Hyde is the lead role, but actually in the story it's Utterson is the lead.
Yeah.
And Barnaby Kay is in that role, doing a great job. It's the month of Barnaby Kay. 3 things out for Big Finish.
Yeah, and all of them sensational.
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. Now, what about you? What are you going to recommend for us, Dwayne?
I'm going to recommend something that I finished listening to yesterday, and that is the Auton Infinity, which is part of the Doctor Who 40 box set, the 40th anniversary of the 5th Doctor celebration. So 41 came out earlier in the year. I think it was the first release of this year, actually. It must have been because it was on the 1st of January, I think, that Peter Davison debuted, wasn't it?
Possibly.
Or 2nd of January. 1st or 2nd of January. It was very early in January 1982. So the Auton Infinity is written by Tim Foley. It's a 6-part adventure. It is the first full-length 6-part adventure, and I say that because the 5th Doctor did have a 6-part adventure called The Game many, many years ago, but the episodes were about 15 minutes long.
They're very short.
So these episodes are minimum 30 minutes. Some of them go for 35. And it is such a wonderful celebration of the 5th Doctor. Now, I'm not one who is the world's biggest fan of the 5th Doctor era, but I know it very well. I've seen it many times. And the references to it, the throwbacks to it, the way the story ties into that era, the affection that has been put into the story, the love that has been put into there by Tim Foley, and John Dorney, the script editor, would have had a lot to do with that as well. And the performances of John Coleshaw as the Brigadier, as the Master, the Ainley Master, and Chameleon are done with such affection, as I've already mentioned earlier in the episode, that John Coleshaw has such love for Doctor Who that shows in every performance he does. I love the Autons. The Nestine consciousness is probably my favourite classic era monster, because it's probably my most behind the sofa moment in Doctor Who was Spearhead from Space. So that's the one that really stands out to me as the most terrifying childhood nostalgic memory for me through Doctor Who. Not a terrifying in a bad way, but the terror that sort of draws you into fandom. That was the Autons that did it, and I loved. I think is it Lee Adams? Lee Adams? Is it Lee? There's a couple of Lees. Lee Adams, Lee Binding. I think it's Lee Adams is the sound designer. Uses the, and forgive me if I got the name wrong too, and correct me someone in the comments. You're welcome to do that. Using the original Auton sounds from Spearhead from Space, the wow, wow, wow. I love that. That was missing from Terror of the Autons, and I always miss that when I watch Terror. But that having those original sounds back, the sounds of the guns and everything is fantastic. And the conceit behind the story, how this particular Nestine consciousness is there, is just tied into the 5th Doctor's era so beautifully. I cannot recommend this enough. And Philip, you should listen to it next.
Okay, I've got it downloaded, but I'm still trying to work through our randomoids at the moment as well. Mike's got so much to listen to.
I know, it's fantastic, isn't it? We are very spoiled for choice when it comes to our audio.
Totally spoiled.
Audio. All right, that's it for this episode. Thank you to Clare Corbett for joining us, and thank you to you, Philip, for arranging it, and for everyone for watching, for listening. Thank you so much. That's all I can say.
Thank you, Dwayne. Thanks, everyone.
All right, we'll catch you next time. This has been the Sirens of Audio episode 132, The Woman with 1,000 Voices, with our guest Clare Corbett and your hosts Philip Edney and Dwayne Bunny. Original theme music composed by Joe Kramer. Our website is sirensofaudio.com. You can email us at sirensofaudio@gmail.com or contact us via any one of our socials. Thanks for listening, Audiophiles. We'll hear you next time.